And good afternoon. Happy Mercury direct. We have the midheaven right on the moon in Virgo, which means the IC is with Neptune, and the moon is exactly opposing Neptune right now. So it's a good time to get delusional and not mind so much the clarity of communication. And the ascendant is ruled by Jupiter in Sagittarius, 14 degrees Sagittarius, Jupiter retrograde in Taurus in the 6th house. Okay, with Venus in the 14th degree of Leo, in the 9th house, whole sign speaking. Mars in Libra, Ketu in Libra. Mars has left the 11th degree of Libra, so great relief for people who deal with suicide ideation and stuff like that. So trigger suicide ideation if you're dealing with that. We have but the moon no longer in like really harsh aspect with Saturn, and Mars leaving the 11th degree of a sign, and that can be a bit better time, I hope, for those of you. So thank you for staying. The day is Venus Day, of course. This is a Venus wisdom on a Venus day, Sol hour with Sun on the 22nd degree of Virgo, and she is trining Uranus on the 22nd degree of Taurus. I should not be smiling when I say that. If you know Nicola Stoyanovich degree theory, you know that the 22nd degree is where we are expected to have assassinations, bombings, not suicide bombings necessarily, but although Uranus can be suicide, or a natural disasters. Unfortunately, this is something that can be with this degree on a mundane level. I might take a look at the news later. One good talismanic energy that I can turn you to is the 22nd lunar mansion talisman, and the 22nd lunar mansion that is designed against assassination, physical harm, and so on and so forth. I can just go to my screen where the entire Uranus in the 22nd degree of Taurus on my Lotus Spirit is something that I like to have, and this is by Christopher Warnock. Okay, so if you want to get a reading from me, it is possible that you order me one talisman by Christopher Warnock and I give you a reading. It's very expensive, so I keep it expensive. I raise the bar, so I make sure that you have considered this thoroughly and that the wealth gate opened for you to buy this, okay? Because this allows me the time to give people free readings, and a lot of topics, a lot of things that I see that happening in people's lives, and every once in a while I feel I have the energy, the capacity, I will give a free reading to a person that either cannot afford this or that are in a situation that hardly any other practitioner would understand what's going on with them, whether they're dealing with non-volitional, non-dual experiences, and needing to deal with that not in a way that disempowers them, but to have knowledge from experience of people like me, and I'm one of these people that can give certain advices, especially when it comes to outer planets, to inner planets, and all kinds of stuff. So I do that as service to the world. But when I do get paid readings, I get paid, darlings. I get paid. Okay. So Christopher Warnock talismans with shipping to Israel, and you can get a reading from me. This can be natal reading. This can be or whether a question that you have, or all of the above, the upcoming year. And I work with whole sign, but also Placidus. I would look at Uranus and Placidus to see why you come into me. I work with both the natal and transits, of course, the classical. What I can do with rulership, just the simple rulership, not even triplicities, is probably one of my greatest strengths. Outer planets to inner planets. If you have this in your chart, I include Aries as an outer planet. So This is kind of like my signature reading, because I refer not only to what you will have personally in your life, but what change of humanity are you a part of, and we together can understand how can you contribute to this change and facilitate and perhaps feel more validated about why don't the mindset trick, the manifestation trick, the psychology tricks, the coaching tricks work for me good enough, and why does it feel like what I'm called to do is something that people might consider avoiding personal responsibility, or focusing on social change rather than on personal growth, and so on and so forth, because outer planets and inner planets include both the personal stuff and the contribution to the world. That being said, back to the topic for today, and this is Venus Wisdom on Venus Day. I have seen some nice advice around the new moon in Virgo, and people said, it's a good time to manifest. Mercury is stationing direct. I'm not saying that it is not, but let's say you missed this one. I want to give you another window of opportunity. And this is both agricultural, and we're going to look for it now. We're going to take a look at what happens when the moon goes into Libra and what good timings do we have there. So let's just begin to scroll. So while we do not have a talismanic election, we definitely are going to have the moon in Libra before it conjuncts Mars, because moon and Mars are, moon is our emotional safety, Mars is our get out of the comfort zone, so you can understand how it's difficult. But the first phase of Libra, we might not get the visible moon still. So yes, it will apply to Trine Jupiter, but it will conjunct Mars. So one day is not enough for me. I want to get to the second day where the moon is already on the 20th degree in Libra. Now, here is a very interesting thing, because the moon in here is going to begin to oppose Chiron at first, which is in a malefic degree according to Nicolas Stanovich degree theory in Aries. Okay, so the moon, and again, this is not a talismanic one, but anything that you would like to grow, the moon will also oppose Aries, okay, and apply to conjunct Ketu. Anything that you would like to grow in your life in relation to perhaps healing from your Chiron wound in Aries, even if you don't have it natally, it's going through your Aries house, honoring Aries in Aries, okay, the planet Aries in Aries, trans-Neptunian planet. There's a big bigger than Pluto, and she is the planet of discord, okay? Her card of enlightenment is discord. So in this part, in this Aries part, or by people that represent Aries in your life, you are running into the enlightenment card of discord. Bless you. So if you would like to honor Aries, to learn how to integrate this discordia into your life, the times where a disagreement is asked for, creating chaos and dissolution is asked for, and it is not malefic, and it is not unguided, and it is not to harm humanity. Okay, so those are things that you could be addressing in an honoring ceremony or in a charity. Okay, if you have people in your life that are of Aries nature, where they seem to stir up everybody's deep emotion, you can pray for them. If they are in need, if they have difficulty to find maybe housing, maybe a job, maybe to be accepted in society, because they stir up all kinds of, because it's a process that is difficult for people to process, you can donate resources to these people. This is a form of Aries charity, okay? Whether it's transgender people or just people who are marginalized for whatever reason, that tend to stir up, yeah? And it could also be a process of emotional growth. Somebody stirs up a reaction in you, so you kind of like agitated, pray for them, bless them, and bless yourself to integrate this energy in a way that is creating this, people want to say raising vibration of humanity. It sounds like a big word, but it's actually a very subtle change in energy that does happen. So that is something you could use this first crescent moon in the last phase of Libra. I don't know the 36 phases. I'm actually very much waiting for Austin Coppock to come up with this like second edition of the more updated stuff of the book to see if I can get it. And if you want to get a reading with me, then you can absolutely, whenever that happens, like catch that. And if I get the copy of the book, of course, you get the free reading. So that's another way to get on a consultation with me. Now for plantation, okay? Again, because this first crescent moon is opposing Chiron, opposing Aries, and applying to conjunct Ketu, okay? And if the moon is already visible when it conjuncts Mars, so you understand that even though first crescent moon is great for manifestation, usually the energies, you want something to grow, you want to plant a seed and to be supported by the moon for growth. We understand that the moon is in a situation that is problematic. Okay, Mars is taking action, but Mars and the moon Mars is getting out of your comfort zone, and a conjunction is a very intimate energy that is overwhelming for the moon. Okay, conjunction is considered malefic aspect. It's more challenging. And then we have the opposition to Chiron. Chiron is in a very malefic energy place in Aries, because Chiron is the wound, and the 18th degree is kind of like, I wouldn't say poison because I don't know, but it's a degree where like of bad things that happen. Okay, so it can either remind you of a bad wound, or something bad happens that kind of reminds you of that wound, that the place that your identity, that your self reliance, that your autonomy has been wounded in some sort of way. That is very painful. So again, it's not something that I would use to manifest, to create a petition. But what you can do, other than the charity, is to plant seeds in your garden. Okay, and that can be a sort of alleviating. And September is good for, it depends on the region that you are. In the Middle East, is good for planting of parsley, is good for planting of strawberries, of some green leaves, all types of lettuces, cabbage, eggplant, okay, those radishes, okay, types of radishes. This is the stuff that you would want to plant in September, whether you grow in your own house, or you grow on the land, or you're a part of an ecologic farm. Then those are the things you want to plant. You want to do it with the first crescent moon. So anywhere between like the 17th and just the 17th, you have to adjust the timing to your zone to see what, like, is it the 17th, the 16th, and so on and so forth. You want the moon to already be after separating from Mars. Okay, so I like it here on the 20th degree. It separates from Chiron, separates from Mars. It does apply to Aries, but it's very good for planting seeds. You want to do it on the first crescent. So first crescent, you plant the seed in the soil, if those were planted directly in the soil, or you plant them, you put them for germination. Okay, then with the first quarter moon, okay, that is going to be actually the moon in Capricorn. It's kind of like the moon square moon. Capricorn, no, Sagittarius. Okay, when I have a moon in Sagittarius, when the moon is in Sagittarius, then you transplant what you need to transplant, whether it's transplant into the soil, transplant into a bigger plant, then that is the time that you do that. I have learned that from a couple of sources. One of them is Truth in Aspect Astrology, so Jewel from Truth in Aspect Astrology. Great advice on agriculture and the moon comes also from Crasia Tassio, which is classic Babylonian astrology. And then, full moon is kind of like the harvest, and the second, the last quarter moon is basically when you want to trim, you want to do pest works, kind of like when the moon is decreasing. So I thought, hey, why not include the moon in Libra for plantations? Now, a little bit of a point about the new moon in Virgo that we had. The new moon in Virgo that we had happened on a lunar mansion that is actually good for dissolving allies. For those of you who follow me on Twitter, I'm Tali Shear on Twitter, Strudel, TALISHEER. I did post some humanitarian work that I did, and that kind of I wouldn't want to say negate, but it's something we want to take into consideration as we desire to manifest with the moon, is what the moon is doing. And the moon was applying to trine Uranus, and the moon was in a lunar nakshatra that is good for dissolving allies. So if you have dissolving allies, or for example, if you have enemies that ally against you or against humanity, then to make talismans to dissolve them. We're past that, but I want to keep that in mind, because it was a very exciting new moon, but it was not the new moon that you would grow something like a partnership or a relationship, or to lay the foundations of growing something. I can't say it won't work because I don't know, but there are considerations that would make it less good. And when it comes to planting seeds, even though Virgo is great for herbs, medical herbs, plants that we use in our food and nutrition to kind of like may your food be thy medicine, this is great, but we don't see the moon yet. So for some people it works to plant on the new moon, and for some people it doesn't. So it's actually the harvest moon rather than the planting moon. And so I prefer the first crescent of Libra. And as you are planting, there are some wishes that you can make, whether it's to alleviate something, or to grow healing as to your Chiron wound, or to grow integration as to this Aries in Aries. It can be personal, it can be for the sake of humanity. With Aries, I prefer that you will talk big, not just personal, because she is a 500-year cycle planet. So yeah, this is for today. Where Venus is doing, Venus is squaring Jupiter right now, and it's an interesting one because Venus has been in this degree before and she has squared Jupiter before. So Venus is in Leo. Depending on where Leo is in your chart, the square is usually a tension position, and Jupiter is retrograde, although they are both benefics. So they usually, like, it's just like it can be too much of a good thing. Many sweets coming your way, and you perhaps don't want to indulge in all of them. When it comes to relations, you might have new realizations, or your sensual connection part is at odds with kind of like the worldview, or your belief set. So there's like a Zen-like understanding to be created there. But all in all, it's a good transit. It's not a bad transit. Lilith is in 28 degrees Leo. Still trining Aries. Rahu is getting passionately close to Aries. It's going to be triggering Aries in Aries with the October eclipses. There are other videos for that. We touched on. Okay, this one is different. So let's go. Let's go back to this. We talked about the 22 degree of the Sun and Uranus, of the energies that you might want to keep in mind to kind of alleviate, protect yourself. And the moon is opposing Neptune, This is where perhaps you can be disillusioned. For example, the topic of this episode was a bit of a disillusion that the new moon in Virgo was that, manifest your dream life kind of a new moon. It was exciting, it was electric, it was perhaps refreshing, heavy, but it is not the solution to everything. And Mercury is stationing. Now it is direct, but it was stationing just then. And stationing is also stagnant energy. It's getting stuck on something rather than bringing something into growth. The first crescent already looks better, but not necessarily for manifestation. Mercury direct. So, Mercury direct, moving forward, it's a strong Mercury. It was a strong Mercury when it retrograded. What I said, and I hold it, and I keep it within the frames of the weekly Venus Wisdom on a Venus day, is that Mercury going direct in Virgo is further accentuating either you discover something or you tend to a detail that was missing or you act on a missing detail. Virgo Mercury is very much a tiny detail that can change the whole picture. So while it was a strong Mercury and you could still do a lot of stuff when it was retrograde, and even now when it's in its shade period, so finishing up with re-editing, I would not yet launch anything with this one. I would wait for Mercury to get out of its shady period. I know it will be right in front of Neptune when it happens. So the Mercury Virgo for this year is not where I would launch the completely new projects, or unless you don't have a choice, but you could always find an election within an election and remedy it. But it's not, it is a Mercury that is in between the thrones of Saturn and Neptune, okay? But it's very good to really zero in on certain details. And yeah. Oh, you're mad at me. Yeah. Am I making too much noise? You want to go down? Wait. Somebody wants. You want to go down? No. I tried, but it won't come down. So, this Mercury is where, even though it's the type of Mercury where you could still do stuff, okay? It's not a debilitated or debilitating Mercury. It does mean that around this time, certain details popped up that changed the whole picture for you. Okay? That's the power of Virgo. It's God is in the details. Okay? So you discovered something, you heard something, something came up in a conversation, either something was relieved and released, or you just realized that, hey, that is a make or break, if that's a relationship, that it's a contract. Certain things kind of gathered up and are continuing to gather up with this Mercury in its shade period. So while this is a strong Mercury that allows you to pay attention to the details, again, to be detail oriented and to be meticulous, it is also where, if it is fated, if it is divinely guided, something would you would either miss some very important detail, or you will find out some very important detail that changes the whole picture for you. Now you have to understand, where is this Virgo? Where is this Virgo in your chart? Okay, that perhaps deserves a whole video, but it's the same as the video of the Mercury retrograde. It's pretty much the same. It's going over the same stuff. It's opposing from Saturn to Neptune. Okay, they're not moving very much. Okay, so you kind of get the same energy, and it is in its rulership. So you don't have a ruler that messes up with you here. You know what to expect. You know what it is about. You pay attention to when. One thing that I would recommend is to a bit of learn about triplicity rulers. Pay attention to when it is coming up for you and what those triplicity rulers rule. For example, if it is in the 7th house, depending on night or morning triplicity, I would be very cautious if, let's say, you get a phone call from someone or you get a text from someone, and that someone is not romantic partner, but they come when Mercury is in the degrees of the triplicity ruler of romance. Okay, that is something I would pay attention to. Why Mercury is in the degree of romance and I'm getting a call from my landlord or from my lawyer or from my accountant, if it's, I don't know, well, eighth house is more like, yeah, there's eighth account is more like 8th house, but it's like, why when Mercury is in my romance ruled degrees, under the rulership of basically the romance ruler, I'm getting a call from someone I'm not in a romantically involved with. Okay, this is a very important detail, and if you know that this happens to you, you don't want to go there. It's very good to not reply, well, until Mercury goes to the next phase, or alternatively, if Mercury is in my business. Okay, and I don't have a business partnership with, let's say, my spouse, and my spouse is bringing up something, but it's not regarding to my business, and they're bringing this thing up when it is of business partnership. Okay, why is Mercury in the business triplicity ruler, and my partner is talking to me about things that have nothing to do with business when it is in this triplicity? Okay, what is going on? And those are things that are crucial to pay attention to. Okay, the God is in the details. Or if there's an enemy, okay, Mercury is in the enemy ruler, triplicity ruler, then somebody who is like your bestie calls in when Mercury is, so an old bestie calls you when Mercury is in the enemy, okay, triplicity ruler. It's like, okay, well, I'm getting this phone call from my former bestie. What is going on? Those are things that you want to pay attention to. This is where triplicity rulers can really assist. They're different between night and day sect. It's a bit more difficult to understand. I might make an episode or a study live with me on that. And that is something that you do want to pay attention to. Okay, are people calling me out of the place or contractual relationship that we have, and trying to make it a kind of a different sort of connection? And sometimes it's okay. Sometimes it's just like I both worked in a business partnership or worked on as partner with that person, and that person also has planets in my romance house, and something I'm aware of, that we're both aware of, and that's okay. So they're showing up in that role, and in that role, totally legit. But if that is something that is undesired, that is uncalled for, you and or the other person might not be conscious of it, but the chart never lies, okay? You want to be extra cautious, and this might link into hidden communication issues that you have been having, whether with this person, in the circumstances, that why was communication blocked? Okay, there's sometimes it's like the story of Moses and the coal. Okay, and the story of Moses and the coal is basically when Moses was a baby, he was saved, and when he was saved, the person, like God, did not want the king of Egypt to see a threat in this little baby. Okay, and they tested if this baby is basically dangerous or not. So they show this baby a bag of like expensive crystals or gemstones or diamonds, and a bag of coals that were still warm, and God directed the hand. Okay, was going for the shiny stuff, but God directed the hand to the burning coals. He put the coal in his mouth and started stuttering. Okay, this is the story of Moses. And then because he did that, he was not perceived as a threat. It was like, okay, this child is not very smart, is not very special, we can keep him alive, okay, he's not going to outrow the king or something like that. And that ended up to be a prophet. And so with the Mercury retrograde, especially in the strong houses like Gemini, like Virgo, any issue of communication that's suddenly blocked, that suddenly you want to say one thing but it comes out in another, or suddenly you receive channelings or so on and so forth, it can be a bit like the Moses and the coal. Okay, you want to say something, you can't communicate, and then you find out a certain detail that really changes the picture, and you realize that perhaps your lack of communication has been not giving signs to someone that you are going with whatever fantasies they have in their head. That can also be the case. Or not lending too much information. That can also be the case. Kind of like being reserved, setting your boundaries. And that happened by mistake because you didn't even get what the other side was thinking, or what this person in your life was thinking. But you, for some reason, the communication gone bad, or your phone went disrupted, or this or that. There was no communication. Now you have the chance to either renew communication in new boundaries, or make sure you elect the time where Mercury is desired, or the triplicity and the degrees where it is desired to bring back the conversation and set the boundary to where you want it to be. Okay, if the person was getting on your romance and you don't want them on your romance, you just wait for Mercury to get out of the triplicity, and then you answer them professionally. And you use all the magic that you need to set boundaries. If the person was in your romance, but they were also getting into your business and you don't want them in your business, you reply to them, favorably, romantically, and set the boundaries very straight on the business level. Okay, so that is a part of the story where a tiny little bit of detail can really light up the whole picture, and make it very, very obvious what is going on, where otherwise you couldn't see that. This is going to be particularly important as Mercury gets closer and closer to Neptune, because Neptune, Mercury, is communication that is of other worlds. Okay, you could be getting very real communication non-verbally, or you could be getting very verbal communication that does not describe in this world what it normally describes in the world. Okay, that can be outright lies and deceit, but it can also absolutely be misinterpretation, a lapsus, or just confusion, okay, around the interpretation of the words, or the interpretation of communication, or communication cutoff, or disillusionment from, so ideation and disillusionment later from those Mercury Virgo aspects in your life. Okay, so you need to be ready to surrender that place. Okay, this 26 degrees Pisces and Virgo. Okay, surrender that you can be drastically disillusioned, that you kind of like be prepared or not having to rely on that communication when Mercury gets there. So this is another thing that's going on. I heard Catherine Urban talks about the Mercury Cazimi, so let's just try to locate the Mercury Cazimi. We had the Mercury Cazimi in Virgo when Mercury was retrograde. Again, because Mercury is retrograde, it's not a talismanic quality of a Cazimi, but it definitely maybe lighted up some things. I honestly don't remember what I was going through then. But now, let's look at, well, it's monthly astro calendar is fair to look at. And let's look at the Sun conjunctions. Do we have any? Sun conjunct, okay, it conjuncted in September 6th, but I want to go also to October. And the next conjunction with Mercury is going to be on, it's going to be on an eclipse, huh? Let's see. No, not on an eclipse. Okay. So it's going to be days after eclipse, if I'm not mistaken, and days before eclipse. It's in between eclipses. Mercury Cazimi happens in Libra on the 26th degree, just 2 degrees away from Ketu. So again, the Cazimi, what is Cazimi? When a planet conjuncts the sun. Okay? Anytime a planet goes conjuncting the sun, you think about when you get a reboot to install an update to a program, okay? That planet gets an update. And it moves on. It means that any affairs of Mercury, also on a mundane level, are going to get a bit of an update. Now, Mercury is the fastest moving planet other than the moon, and so it gets these updates quite often. Okay, it is exactly like a program. You update your phone every once in a while, and that once in a while becomes very, stuffed. And so it's not life-changing, but because this update happens in between eclipses and it's happening in the shade of eclipses, it's a very particular Cazimi to pay attention to. What we're going to see updated, perhaps that deserves an own video, but I'll just go over it quickly now, and maybe I'll dedicate another one. What is going to be updated on a mundane level is going to be a certain type of heuristics, certain laws concerning trade. Venus is already going to be in 10 degrees Virgo, so something very practical. Some type of like aesthetics. We can have a new type of aesthetics. Mercury rules the hands, and it rules kind of like the third eye, the ears, and more like the intestine. So I don't know. Maybe some kind of like, how herbs connect with your beauty or connect with your decision making, stuff like that. So some updates to heuristics, some updates to cosmetics, some updates to art galleries, trade in art, stuff like that. NFTs perhaps are going to have a different, maybe there's a certain regulation, or maybe new type of NFTs we're going to see showing up. Again, it's not something that's too big, but it can be more enormous than the usual because it is in between eclipses. Okay, it's the update that Mercury needs between one eclipse and the other, and that is not something to be messed with. Okay, that is an energy that we do want to pay attention to. This particular Mercury Cazimi in Libra. The moon is going to be in Capricorn, and it's going to be separating from a sextile to this. So we're going to see this. We are going to see that in action. Okay, the moon is going to be harmoniously bringing this energy to Earth. It doesn't mean that the energy is harmonious necessarily. Okay, Libra is more about the process of making something harmonious or balanced than the actual reality of it being harmonious or balanced. Okay, ask any Libra placements, they're going to tell you it's not like they feel balanced. They mostly don't. So anything more? That's pretty much what we have today. Okay, Venus today is ruling both Jupiter and the 22nd degree Uranus. So going back to today's chart, and then if you want me to give you a wisdom around Venus themes like relationships, well, Venus is still in her shade period and Mercury is still in shade period. Okay, those things that are connected to partnerships, relationships, romance, dating, and stuff. Also in regards to finances, okay, we haven't heard the last word around these things too. So save yourself a horror reading and just understand that you don't see the whole picture. Okay, if you're tempted to, I don't know, buy a reading, buy a this, buy a that around relationship, it's understood why it is so, but it is also understood that your money could be doing other things. Okay, and it's very much either Neptune there with the moon on Neptune, drawing in Neptune, or it's something exciting like Uranus, yeah, this is less likely to be a Pluto something, but yes, it can be. The moon applies to Pluto, but it can very well be that it's just an outer planet thinking in action, in which case you need another reading, you need outer planets to inner planets, or you just need to wait out this thing, because just like your money could be doing better things, and we are going to have eclipses with Ketu in Venus, so you might saying goodbye to some of your resources, some of your assets, Venusian assets or wealth or connections, that is fated. And so again, that's that you might not want to part ways with your money just for that, at this time. Okay, everybody wants relationship readings at this time, but I tell you, wait out. There's so much more to this bigger picture, and you're still getting it. And if I give you a reading now, I'm looking at a certain frame that I can see, a trajectory, but I don't know what will that trajectory mean for you. If you're a natal reading that addresses these issues, is way better than like a synastry or a composite. Just saying. It's not impossible. If you get it's like, I feel I want to do this, then I trust your intuition. But other than that, my wisdom is to simply wait it out. You are going to be tempted when Mercury reaches this 22nd degree of trine in Uranus. You're going to be called in to do something that's okay. What I'm more concerned about is that Venus, when she squares Uranus, is going to happen on around the 28th, 29th. And I'm going to say it, and as far as I can, I will repeat it throughout the month. Prepare for when Venus squares Uranus, okay? Venus is money. Uranus is the spread of something, okay? The sun is like an explosive spread of something, okay? So it doesn't matter what your financial situation is, whatever you can set out and allocate for that Venus square Uranus is better for me that you will do so, because you will not be sleeping too much. You will not be sleeping over sudden changes and eurekas around your values, okay? And things that you thought you're over with are going to pop up again. You're going to be revisited. You're going to have another change, another shift around your values. And that can be your valuables as well, okay? And Uranus is also ideological. So please, you will not be sleeping too much. You will be changing values suddenly. You're going to be very confused, very excited. And money tends to part ways with the native at this time. I want you to allocate the money ahead of time and not try to control this, because Uranus, the more you try to control, Uranus is just going to push against it, wants to liberate something, okay? And that is something I'm more concerned than the Mercury trine with Uranus, which may be a sudden purchase, but not something that you will necessarily regret, or something that even if it was a mistake, you still don't regret that you did that. The trine is better for me than the square. The square is more tension, okay? The trine can be confusing, but kind of like in the confused, kind of like even when there's a fog around my head, I still prefer to go there, okay? With the square, there's tension, okay? Venus in Leo, she wants to be vulnerable, open-hearted, perhaps splurging. Uranus has a certain ideology suddenly. Maybe you want to buy a diamond ring, and Uranus is like, but that's not ethically sourced diamond. Okay, you want to buy a dress, but it's like, but that's not ethically sourced dress. And then Uranus kind of tells you like, I don't know, put the first installment on your land in Romania. Okay? And you're like, but there's so much human trafficking there. It's like, yes, buy land. The more you buy land, the less human trafficking there's on that land. It's like, but I don't have them. I don't care. Put what you have. You would think about a diamond ring, and that can be Uranus, and you can feel it like it's playing in your head, and it really is, I don't like to say it's stronger than you, but there is a fated quality and it's a manifesting aspect, and whatever happens there, I want you to allocate the wealth to go there rather than to try and control Uranus. It's not going to work if you try and control Uranus. Okay? If you try and control Uranus, and if it's budget type, you want to be budget type, you're either going to find yourself in debt, or you're gonna like I really prefer for you to think in the sense of there's going to be some unexpected expense there for me, and as much as I can put the money so that I can rest my head to know that there's going to be something unexpected and it's going to be quite big, then the more I can set my money there and let it go with consent, the less I am surprised in a way that is not comfortable for me, because the square is not comfortable. Okay, you make a purchase that is not comfortable, and you will see along the way why was that purchase important. Okay, but at the first it is not comfortable, it doesn't seem realistic, it seems strange, but there is something in there for you, and that is, I cannot stress this enough. Okay, and I'm going to try and repeat that, because if there's one thing for you to take from this episode, whether regarding Venus and the upcoming Venus wisdoms, is that if astrology shows us when the smart thing to do is to allocate money to splurge, or resources to splurge, or let's say Venus is your 10th house or your 6th house or your 3rd house, then to allocate some time where I can have a sleepless night and not have to go to work. Okay, when I can go somewhere, drive somewhere unexpected, that is way more important than to be calculated, to be responsible. Okay, the Uranus type of responsible is different to the Saturn type of responsible. We saw it excellently with the Uranus-Saturn square that we had in 2021, 2022. And that is where I want you to focus your energy. Okay, so manifestations, easy on the gas, planting seeds with the first crescent moon, when the moon is over Mars, after Mars, as from the last phase of Libra, perhaps, is going to be safe enough to do so. Charity, so honoring things to do with Chiron, or honoring things to do with Aries. Mercury Kazemi, again, not a talisman quality, but definitely an important update, more so than the usual because it's between eclipses. Venus doing things, and your desire to have relationship readings, please save your money or something else, or make a natal chart focused reading about this topic. That's your natal chart, your transits, your those stuffs, rather than a composite or a synastry. Unless it's like really, really, if it's eclipse related, then I will look at it, but if not, save your money, okay? And regarding to saving your money, save some money that you're going to just splurge or be able to face a sudden thing. It could be even a sudden romance that you have is kind of making, then you're going to have to eat a lot of chocolate afterwards, because it's this flare up and poof, and your nervous system is excited, you're not sleeping well. This is not a time where you want to rely on being able to make the best decisions in your life, and there is a reason this is happening. Okay, so save the money ahead. Put some money for the end of the month. Put some money for the end of the month where you can, if it is within your means. Okay, there are people who cannot do it, absolutely, but if it is within your means, make sure that you do your best, or at least set intention to do your best, at least in your mind, that you will not think, oh, it's just going to be another week and I'm going to be tight budgeted and I'm going to be this. No, plan ahead as much as you can, because there's going to be some purchase. It can be regarding, if it's related to your 6th house, it could be regarding your pet. Suddenly the pet needs to go to the vet, or it can be, around your business, or it can be around, value that is changing, or relationship that is gone. You need to kind of pamper yourself. It's like those unexpected things to do with money and resources and connections, and even food. And Uranus, since Venus is in Leo, Leo is a very royal star. Okay, it's not the type that's going to bargain in the market. Okay, Leo is the sign that tells you, well, if you gotta ask how much is it, it means you probably can't afford it, and it tends to be lavish, way more so. And so just Venus in Leo is enough. Venus in Leo square Uranus is this sudden notion that, oh, I want to buy, a flight ticket to my parents. It's like, I don't know how much time we have. Let's just fly to Paris or something. And that's your expense. Okay? So can't stress this enough. If it is within your means, the nature of Uranus makes it complicated, but don't rely on being tight budgeted. And when it comes to your schedule, make sure you do what you can, even in your own mindset, depending, you can't prepare any, workplace or something, but even in your own mindset, to know that you're going to have to take at least a couple of days off. You won't have a full night's sleep with that. And it's all in all, it's not bad. Okay, it's exciting. It can be a fresh new romance. It can be a flashy expense. It can be going to a demonstration, okay, and dressing out, putting on makeup, looking good. It's gonna be a slut walk, a pride walk, okay, something like that. But then it takes expenses. You can't really sleep. Just plan this ahead. It's gonna be sudden. That's it. That's our episode. And the midheaven is right on applying to Mars in Libra, and it's Venus hour. So a good time to release this. Have a great day. And if you want to get on a reading with me, there's natal reading, looking at upcoming year reading, my tools, whole sign houses, and Placidus to some things. I do look at some asteroids. I definitely look at Aries as a planet, outer planets to inner planets. That's my signature reading. When it comes to perfections or timing techniques, it's perfections. If you want me to look at zodiac releasing, I will. You will have to have an exact birth time, because I don't do rectifications. So there's a chance for the whole thing to go flat. But if you want me to look at it, I will look at it. That's pretty much the same. And yeah, if you want me to look at your solar return chart, I will. I will also look at your natal chart. My least preferred situation is that you will come to me with the composite or with the synastry at this time, unless unless it is really called for. Okay, unless you really feel that it is called for, then that's okay. But if not, like, your money can do better things right now, because it is changing, the picture is changing, and you are probably better off just waiting out and see what happens. You won't be able to miss the signs. Okay, so that's it. And if you're wondering about how to pay me, so you buy me a talisman by Christopher Warnock, or a rectification course by Patrick Watson and Chris Brennan, and you get a reading from me. My Twitter handle is strudel, TALISHEER, so Tali Shear. And you can DM me. I do not DM you. I do not know who you are. I do not locate you. I do not do these things. So anybody that presents themselves as me, fortunately, and up until now it hasn't happened, but if somebody does that, then it's not me. And so only when you book a reading with me, we go, we chat, you see me in video, you have the pictures, you know that this is me. and then you make the order and you get the reading. So yeah, if it is more like a quick question that you have, those can be talismans like Christopher Chow, Venus oil can be fine with shipment to Israel. It's way less expensive, but this is more like a 30 minutes reading and so on and so forth. So yes, have a great day.